arrangement. It's been so long yesterday. So we've got a lot of catching up to do. We're going to have to cut a couple of corners, and we'll see what we can do.
Good morning, Central High School. This is Wayne Montiller. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the student auction is up, and over 10 bids came in just the first day for our 20 seniors up for auction. Remember, all students can bid, and the starting bid on our lovely ladies and guys is just $1. You also don't have to have money at the time of your bid. All you do is fill out a slip and put it in the silent auction box. You can bid every lunch this week, so do not forget to raise money for the senior class. All right, attention all seniors, a couple more things. This Thursday, there is a mandatory Johnston meeting assembly in the auditorium. This is mandatory for all seniors, talking about the activities as well as your picture, yearbook, and graduation stuff. If you do not have a second period, you still need to attend. So all seniors, second period this Thursday, mandatory auditorium meeting. Okay. Seniors in social studies, econ, and government classes. If you have an econ or government class 5th or 6th period, you may attend please attend the Career Center aid workshop during those periods. Your attendance will be excused today in the Career Center. Alright, all seniors who have passed the AP Foreign Language exam with a 3 grade or better and or Santa Barbara City College Foreign Language 104 course, please go to the testing office, that's 106, anytime today, because you may qualify for the California Biliteracy on your diploma. Finally, for the case, all juniors and seniors who have not passed the high school language exam must take a test next Tuesday for English and Wednesday for math. Okay, couple more things. Congratulations to high school juniors and finalists in the Santa Barbara Teen Star competition. She came to Santa Barbara High School, so we represent. And Music of the Night opens this Thursday. It plays this Thursday at 7, Friday at 7, and Saturday at 7. And finally, the San Marcos game also is Friday at 7 o'clock in the gym. It's going to be huge. Be sure to come out. All right, Santa Barbara. Thank you very much. Have a good one.
So, unfortunately, we got a lot of catching up to do, and this will make a slightly challenging day today. We're going to do things in sort of a weird order. The first thing I'd like to do is talk about your electricity and gas bills. So I'm glad you brought those today, because you've only had like 1,000 reminders. Please take out both the gas and electricity bills.
Apparently not.
Unless you already had them scanned. Oh yeah, take them out anyway. Can I see a couple of examples? Can I use those as examples?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot of bills. I don't need like your whole history of payment.
Well, no, these are just handing them out.
Oh yeah. This is interesting, but I can't use yours. Can I see yours? Can I show these? Okay. Gary, remember that they're Edison gas companies. A lot of kids have their water now, but the water doesn't exist. You're going to need the water in February. So I know it's distracting that Gary is walking around. Just so you know, because you guys are behind, I'm only going to do the content that is most critical. So if you don't focus today, I fear you may miss something. In the upper right-hand corner of the metal rack, don't get it now. On your way out, you'll need the energy use inventory. It's due this Thursday. Gary, no talking. Everybody, look at your electricity bill first.
Doesn't look very good.
Your electricity bill comes from Southern California Edison.
Extremely glary.
I know.
Yeah.
Please touch the right side of your nose if you have this bill out now. Southern California Edison. On that bill, you will find the cost right here. That is your new charges. That's the cost. Put a C next to that because that's the cost. And then you will find, please look up, the total electricity you used this month in kWh. That's the usage. Are there any questions about this one? Next, please look up this student's usage has been fairly consistent. So I will assume that there isn't a big difference in their energy use by months, thus they probably don't have an air conditioner that runs nonstop in the summer. Please look at your year of monthly bars and raise your hand if the summer months have a significant increase. Who has a spike in electricity use for summer months? September's the hottest month of the year, yeah. And so I'm going to assume that both your houses have air conditioning because the hottest month of the year, when, by the way, you use the least electricity for lighting because the days are very long, that's when your fridge is working the hardest and your freezer is working the hardest, so there's a little bump for that. But if it's significant, that would be air conditioning. If you lived in Las Vegas, there would be a huge spike for the summer months electricity consumption because everybody in Las Vegas needs air conditioning to survive life in the Bear Desert.
For Las Vegans.
Yep. Next, please take out your gas bill.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, yeah.
Your gas bill comes from the gas company. Where it says right here, total therms, that number, that's your usage, write a U next to it. And then, at the bottom, where it says your total current charges, write a C for cost. Be careful, some of your parents either missed a payment or only pay their bills every 2 or 3 months, We're only looking for your current charges, not your accumulated charges. So a lot of you will have a previous balance and new charges for your current total. That's too much. We just need to know your current, your new, for this billing period charges. And again, check your bars. I will assume that this student does have central heating. Because notice, in the coldest month of the year, December, big spike in natural gas usage. So, everybody's house uses roughly the same natural gas basics. We in Santa Barbara, pretty much everyone, have a natural gas dryer, natural gas water heater, and natural gas cooking stove and oven. Since you do those things pretty much the same frequency every day of the year, those are your seasonal baseline of natural gas. And then, the big spike in gas comes in your winter heating. How many of you have a spike in natural gas for the winter months? I would assume that somebody who doesn't have that spike doesn't have a heater and otherwise heats their house with like firewood or something. Does anybody here heat their house primarily with firewood? Or wood chips or something like that? Now for some basic numbers. At my house, I've got a family of 4, but we have a small home and we try to be thoughtful about our energy usage. In my house, I spend right around $32, $35 a month for electricity. And we spend about $18 to $20 a month for natural gas, although my house really spikes the natural gas in November, December, sometimes in January, because we get super, super chilly and our house is uninsulated. So now that we have a new heater to keep our house warm, we fire through the gas. We go up to like $40 or $50 from natural gas in the winter months. We more than double our base natural gas consumption in heating our home. It's a very inefficient home. Those seasonal spikes of electricity for cooling or natural gas for heating, that's what passive solar design is trying to avoid. If you lived in Las Vegas, those numbers would be really, really extreme. And I actually had a student in the math section a couple years ago that brought their bills from one of the parents' house. The parents are divorced and mom or dad lives in Vegas, and so the student just got those bills because that's the parent that they asked. And for the Las Vegas house, it was really, really remarkable. You could see this like perfect spike in one and then in the other. They lined up perfectly to the extremes of the year, and the fall and the spring were pretty moderate. It was really interesting to see that. I would say for your electricity bill, please look at your total for the month.
$1.
Here in Santa Barbara, where we tend to have what you might call like, more luxurious homes, I'd say for a family of 4 up to 150 or so is considered pretty common. That would be like fairly standard. That includes like every fridge usually costs you about $20 or $30 per month. And it doesn't matter the size, really. Like a little frat fridge costs roughly the same to operate. And that's roughly the same for like a chest freezer. $20 to $30 a month for each of those. You're probably spending $20 to $30 a month for each television that runs on average about 2 hours a day. So if you watch a lot more hours or have multiple televisions, then you're adding 20 to 30 bucks per. If they're very, very big, anybody have like giant televisions, like humongous screens? If you do running those like two hours a day, that might push 40, 50 bucks a month. And if you run it like 8 hours a day, then of course you're talking like 200 bucks a month maybe. Like it can get pretty extreme on the one big cost that most of you probably don't realize you're spending a lot of money on is if you have a jacuzzi that's like a freestanding jacuzzi, not built into the ground. Those are usually natural gas. But anybody have like the plastic box with a flip lid jacuzzi, like in the backyard? Those are usually electrical. You may know that there's an electrical switch to turn it on or off. Those are probably costing you somewhere between 60 and 100 bucks a month. If it's like a really like big one, like you can get like 6, 7, 8 people in it, then it's probably as much as double that. My mom and dad have a fairly small one, but the insulation's kind of like fallen off over the years. Theirs cost about 60 to 90 bucks a month. Other one that costs a lot of money is outside lighting. Does anybody have really significant outside lighting, like architectural lights on your house so you can see it when you drive up? Lighted landscaping, like trees that are lit from below, or my hunch is your electrical bill is over $300 a month, potentially much higher, and it's probably that outside lighting. Like a really big outside light, one of them uses about as much electricity as a fridge. So people who have like 10 big architectural lights that run until midnight, you might be spending $200-300 bucks just to light your house from the outside. Yeah.
Light pollution.
Okay,
Oh,
great.
wait,
Yeah.
for the jacuzzis that are built into the ground, how much are those?
Those are usually going to come out of your natural gas. Usually. That type of installation will raise your gas prices, not so much your electricity. It's possible to get electrical heating elements for those, but that's not very common.
So how much are those compared to
Oh, well, natural gas is a lot cheaper as a heat source, and so they add. Well, but then usually you're heating the pool too. When you have a jacuzzi built into the ground, those are usually attached to a pool. So because the water volume is so much greater. If you had just a jacuzzi, I don't know. I've never thought of that. 10 or 15 bucks maybe? I don't know. Natural gas. So now, students, how many of you feel that my estimates of the numbers kind of add up to your bill? Oh, I forgot. Your lighting, like your household lighting, like 10 or 15 bucks for a family of 4, unless you have like a very large home, or like vaulted ceilings with little spotlights, or like long hallways and lighted artwork. That might double the lighting cost. And if you have like a big electricity user, like a wine cellar or like a pottery kiln, all bets are off. Oh man, like a lot of people actually know that the silver electric. Like, wait, seriously, nobody here has a pottery kiln?
Marlon has a pottery kiln.
So yeah, Marlon over here is pottery.
Marlon, is everybody joking? Or no? You have a pottery kiln. It's electric?
No, it's gas. Yeah, it's like
You have an electric one?
yeah, no, it's huge.
Your folks make a lot of pottery?
My mom did. Mom did.
And yours? It's like an octagon that's about this tall with like a stone over the top. It has a controller that's electric. A screen on it. That's not a bill. This is your statement. Yeah, so you'd have to go back and click on. You would have to go back and click on one of these. This is not your bill, but here's your usage. Here's your cost. I wish we could spend more time talking about this. Like, all the other classes kind of rush through this unit. And so, like, if you guys can't focus, I don't mind. It's just, you're not going to get all the content that's going to be on the exam. Like, I can't stress out about it. I wish we could do more conversation about the energy usage, but there's just like a couple of things that we'll have time for. Look at your electricity and think, how many TVs, how many fridges, how much outside lighting, how many people in your home, and then let's do this really quickly. For each TV, we're talking 20 to 30 bucks if they are about that size, about 2 hours a day. So we double that number for 4 hours a day. We double that number again for 8 hours a day. If there's multiple TVs, keep doubling. If they're much smaller, we take away that number. So about 20 bucks a month for 2 hours a day, that size. Do that first, because that's the biggest adjustment. Double the screen size, double the screen time, double the screens. Then, about 25 bucks a month per refrigerator in your house. Think of how many of those you have. Chest freezers, frat fridges. I mean, I know people with 6 refrigerators in their home. I don't care, but let's move on. Then, if you have like a standard home, 4-person house, like 2-3 bedrooms-ish, let's talk 15, 20 bucks for lights. If you have any of the following, like vaulted ceilings with little spotlights, like really long hallways that always stay lit, like big lighted entryways, lighted artwork, you might call that an extra 10 bucks for each of those for lighting. That should get you to basically your household electrical usage, especially this time of year. And you can add to that 60 to 90 bucks for a freestanding jacuzzi per month. And then you can add to that fairly significantly, up to hundreds of dollars for outside lighting. If it's like a bright light, a single bright light, we're talking as much as 20 bucks a month if it's a big one. Like if it's hot, like when you go close to it, you kind of feel the heat on your leg. You can call that up to 20 bucks a month, assuming it's on 3 to 4 hours a night. How many of your electrical bills are kind of in the ballpark of being covered by this explanation? Does anybody have an exceptional power bill that's kind of extreme or confusing or curious to you? Because we could probably, yeah.
Well, like considering what you said about the monthly tax was 165 and then my bill's 209.
So my 100 just, I mean, so you have the outside lighting,
Like not like super bright, but I do have outside lighting.
but numerous?
Yeah.
That might add up. It just depends on which types of bulbs you're using and how often they run. A lot of people run their outside lights all the time that it's dark.
Oh yeah.
So if your outside lights are still on, if you wake up at sunrise, like if you get a nervous start to a steam or something and you notice your lights are still on, then that could be it. The other big users that a lot of people have that they don't realize is all of the electronics attached to like entertainment. So if you have like somebody playing Xbox multiple times, plus like mom or dad's design computer if they have like a home office, plus like the little computer in the kitchen for the recipes and the TV like streaming, and like that stuff adds up pretty fast too. Entertainment electronics. But my hunch is the outside lighting, and that number is not extreme. A couple $100 is not. How many people live in your house?
20 people?
Yeah. You're not. I had one student $2,200
Ouch. That's
for
really
a family of 3, I think.
Ouch.
And then they had 3 other electrical uses on their property. So a well that's separate, and like lighted fencing that's separate. I've had a student that spent $800 a month lighting a tennis court a few hours a night. Like $200 that's not a big deal. Who else had a surprising number? What's yours? How much? 735. So, how many people in your house?
3.
They all live there full time. How many televisions? That size?
1.
Okay.
And then 3 small.
Wait, this is small.
Yeah, we have a Tesla.
Oh,
But that's it. We only plug it in once a week.
okay.
Would that be it?
Yeah. That's not the 700, but that's at least 100. That could be as much as 200 if you have to charge it. That's not the whole thing. So, do you have outside lighting?
Yeah.
Lighted driveway, lighted trees, architectural lighting on the outside, like that point up in the house.
Oh, no. There's like 5
Students, shut up! I'm talking to her. You do have a lighted driveway.
Yeah, but it's not on all the time.
Okay. Do you have a freestanding jacuzzi? Plastic one with it. Okay. Do your parents do any like design or sound, like music studio / web hosting? How many bedrooms is your home? Your amount of square feet? 5 or 6?
I don't remember. Wait. Yeah.
Sounds pretty big.
First world problem.
So let's assume that you're spending like an obscene amount on lighting the inside. Just to go super extreme, $100 would be like, that's a lot of lights in a house. Like on all day. That's a lot of lights. How many fridges in your house?
1.
Let's call it a humongous fridge. Is it like the big Wolf double door built into the cabinetry? Okay, so $30 for a fridge. Let's say $200 a month for the Tesla would be a lot of driving. Is it like you use 5 days a week commuting?
We usually plug it in once
a week? I would say that we're still missing something. We have to be missing something. Are you in a really remote area that doesn't have natural gas? Do you have a natural gas bill?
Mine's Edison.
And you have a gas company.
So we just need to be in August.
Yeah, so you're definitely using your gas.
Wine cellar.
Okay, do you have a wine cellar?
What? Yeah, we have a fountain in the back.
Even if it's a humongous, like, a waterfall that would carry, like, a boat, it's not actually that hard to run water pumps. I mean, that could add up to $100 if you're literally shooting, like, a 4-inch pipe, like, 20 feet up. Yeah, there's something weird going on there. There's probably some kind of a climate control thing that might be really costly. Or maybe that Tesla is just more than I thought.
Because we plug it in, because my mom commutes to Oxnard, so she plugs it in down there, usually. And then just fill it up off the top, it's like we're going to LA or something at home.
That's weird. I don't know. Anybody else have a crazy one? Yeah?
-$3.
What? Well.
My tutor,
When that
Yeah. Go ahead.
my tutor, tutored this kid who was sons of parents who owned the water or the polo club, you know.
Uh-huh.
And he said he saw their water bill once, and it was $10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, those extreme water uses, we'll talk about water when we get to water. A golf course uses more water than, a neighborhood of 180 homes or something. You can get all these numbers on. I'm just making it up. Somebody want to get extra credit, find me that number. How much golf courses compare to average family usage in the U.S. And, polo fields are basically, greens. They are the fanciest grass. I know a family that has, an equestrian training center at their house. And so you have, one nice green lawn. And it's, acres of grass. And they basically had to make a well with a separate electrical hookup because it's cheaper to pay electricity to suck it out of the ground than it is to get water from the river that's just like 40 feet from their house. It's yeah, it's a very extreme water usage. No numbers surprise me anymore. Like nothing really.
So 10,000 is pretty average.
For a polo field, yeah. So like my water bill at my house is like $7 or $9, like because I don't water a lawn. Like no, I don't shower. Thanks for asking, right? I roll in dust like a chinchilla. So check out this electrical bill. In the summer, he sells electricity. In the winter, he buys it. We'll talk about that. That's on-grid photovoltaic. We'll do that probably tomorrow since you guys are moving a little bit slower than the other periods. Yeah?
What's like an average water bill?
For water, let's talk water in the next unit, okay?
What's an average electric?
Well, my family of 4 is under $40 all year. I might go $42 if like we forget the lights on and my daughter's room a lot. Or yeah, I don't think we've ever been over $50 in my home. We just don't use electronics much. We have very little lighting. Like we just.
Is that like average or is that like?
That's kind of like a hippie family. That's like people who are trying. I'm trying.
Yeah.
Like even smaller homes, like people who live in a 2-bedroom apartment, like they can get it down to like $30 if they have a nice fridge. I'd say average for a family of 4 in Santa Barbara, just from doing this a lot, seems to be about 150. Yeah, like 300 is the beginning of the really high end. For like in all of my classes, I'll have 3 or 4 kids over 300. And usually I get like 4 or 5 a year that are over 1,000. And those are like, estates, like places that have either, 2 buildings or like an attached sound studio or like some big user. Anybody else want to talk electrical or not? Is our record 750? Cool.
What's the most expensive I've ever seen? The 2200?
I think I've had a 3,147 or something, but yeah, that's been a few years, and that was something very special. They had like a big estate with all the big users, and so they had multiple homes on it. I think the biggest for a single family home was the 2200 I saw this year. But I've seen a lot over 1,500. Like every really fancy house you've ever seen, like those are a lot. There's a lot of stuff we do to make houses look pretty, like the outside lighting and like lighting a couple of trees. That looks really nice when you drive up in the evening. Like that person's paying so much for that.
How do Christmas lights? Yeah.
Oh, they can really affect your usage. We have like 2 little strips of LEDs. So for us in Christmas, we spend an extra $4 or something. But you can imagine houses spending hundreds of dollars extra. I had a student whose parents are crazy about the Christmas lighting with like the inflatable stuff on the lawn and like the sleigh on the roof and stuff. And they were up like $350 for December. All right. On your energy use inventory, I guess we should probably grab that now. Everybody go get one energy from the top right.
I think we're doing good.
Hugo, happy birthday! All right. Everybody should tickle or poke Hugo. Everybody mess with Hugo's body. No personal space boundaries for Hugo. All bets are off for Hugo. Hugo's 100. He gets 100 pose.
They're like they were more like okay, the person on Jeopardy last night was like, I was born on. And she was like, it's also 420. And then she she won. She ended up winning Jeopardy.
Yeah.
Like a boss.
You said your person who won Jeopardy last night was born on his birthday.
Let's check out the hostage. 5 people living
God, let's talk about the yours.
in a house.
Were you talking about 3 birds and 3 geese?
Yeah.
So,
And outside, just like,
well, so that probably adds up, huh?
it's still negative 3 votes. Wait.
Oh, right, you got to look at it, right. How much was yours? Small, right?
Kind of. But we're never home. No one has
Part with the window open.
We like to rent out the bottom half of our house. Like a
Maybe you have hot water. That's another one.
steam sauna every
You have a
day.
hot water leak, the heater's just
So random.
people
People use it.
So those like on and off heating sources that you leave it on, and
Yeah.
we had that happen in my house. We had a hot water leak. So we had 1 month, it was like $200. That's how we found it. Natural gas, usually pay like $18.
How much did you say for standing?
$60 to $90 a month. How freaky is yours? It's kind of high. How many people? How many TVs? How many refrigerators? Fish tank freezer? 7 freezer garage?
Yeah.
We have other buildings in this house.
I want to see.
Big stuff, big computer stuff. How big is the jacuzzi? From your corner to my corner? Or from your corner to my corner?
Go ahead.
This size? Outside lighting. You must have outside lighting. Like on a time or on a street. Yeah.
Question was, when is the water bill due? February.
Wait.
Sometime. Got it.
More lighting. Is there a side door anyway? Like not outside playing? Yeah.
It don't have to be the same boss.
No. You can just do one and then the other. Alright. Listen very carefully, please. I need to get away from this energy usage stuff and also do some of the homeworks. You will first of all write the month that they are from. Then in the electricity unit, remember, you want to find out the cost per kilowatt. So write this down, cost divided by usage. That'll give you the dollars per kilowatt. Your total cost divided by your total usage. Next, please look up. Everybody in Santa Barbara has a tiered pricing system. The more you use, the more you pay per unit of electricity. So if you're not paying a lot, each unit is cheap. But as you use more and more, your price per unit electricity goes up. Okay? Because Homegirl's house has a lot of outside lighting, you can see that she is paying up to 32 cents per kilowatt hour. So her average cost per kilowatt hour is higher than the Better's house average cost per kilowatt hour. Because hers are only the cheap ones, she's buying more of the expensive ones. So her average is more. She spends more per unit of electricity because Edison considers her to use more than a rational allotment. Everybody understand what I mean by that? The tiered pricing? How that shifts your average upward? Next, please look up. In the natural gas, you'll do the same thing. Cost per unit. Then on the back, there's converting energy units, energy use of appliances. You'll have to find on the back of electronics a little silver or white badge that says how many watts the device operates in. If you're not following, I'm not feeling helpful. On the back of an appliance, look for the wattage, multiply by the hours being used, then use your cost per kilowatt to answer those questions. Because you're not following, I don't care. Finally, on the bottom, there is an energy use by your body. Just so you know, this energy use inventory is the sort of math that the College Board puts on the AP test every year. I'm not a big fan of handouts. I don't really get anything out of this. When you do the work to answer these questions, it doesn't do anything for me. But you should very seriously attend to these calculations because the College Board will ask you these types of questions every single year. Would anybody like to ask me something about the energy use inventory or the energy bills? Yes?
So it says we operate at approximately 80 watts. Is that 80 watts like per hour?
Well, it depends how many hours you run. You measure two separate things, the wattage of operation and the time being used. Electricity is measured in watt hours, where you multiply wattage by hours. So when you operate at 80 watts, that's operating 24 hours a day. That's 192 kilowatt hours. Makes sense? Because you multiply the two to get the multiplied unit. Yeah?
How much do you think it would cost to leave
1,900, 1.92 kilowatt hours.
Wait, what? No.
What?
How much do you think it would cost to leave like a MacBook charger plugged in all the time?
Probably $1 or $2. The funny thing is that the charger is using electricity, whether there's a device at the end or not. Just recently, chargers have gotten smarter. So I don't know about the newest Apple products. I'm starting to be outdated with this information. But if you had asked me this question 5 years ago, I would have said that laptop charger uses the same amount of electricity whether or not there's a device at the end. Only recently it's been changing. Nowadays, I don't know about Apple in particular. I don't know about 2014 in particular. Would anybody like to ask me anything else about energy usage and the energy use inventory?
This is due Thursday.
This is due Thursday. And keep in mind, I would usually have done a much longer lecture on this, but we're trying to play catch up with your absence. If there are no other questions, I'd like to move on. Please take out your notes for 7.3 now. Oh my God. You want to escalate? Really? You want to escalate? I retired. You ruined it for me. I pretty much quit playing Trivia Crowd.
Now that you're losing, you don't want
If Hugo can win, this game is a waste of time. Waste of time. All right. Did we discuss number 25, the different types of coal?
You were talking about the history.
And I'm going to have to fast forward the history conversation since unfortunately we're a little behind. There are some interesting details in the history of coal usage, but for us, we'll have to let that go. And instead, I've got good news and bad news. Good news, the U.S. has a lot of coal. Look at that map.
That's a lot of coal.
But there are some bad news. As you can see in this diagram, the really high quality, like high energy content, low water, the anthracite, there's not a lot of that. See those little green dots up at the top? Pennsylvania, I think.
Yeah.
That's the only high quality coal we have in America. We had more, but we kind of used that up. And you'll notice most of this, the light brown, the dark brown, that's somewhere in this part of the spectrum. Or the percentage of coal which has the most sulfur oxides, the high volatile. And so unfortunately, of the clean coal, we have almost none, and unfortunately, almost all of America's coal is in the dirtiest part of the spectrum. Either low energy content, so you have to burn more, or the dirtiest types of bituminous. Very little of the clean bituminous and anthracite. Yeah.
Can't we with the new power plants filter out sulfur oxide?
So that's exactly the question. The punchline of my lecture was 2 presidents in a row. When Bush came into office, coal production spiked because he reinterpreted environmental regulation to facilitate more coal extraction. That was a really touchy subject. And a lot of conservationists and people in Appalachia got really pissed about this. But he was talking about, we're going to get into some cleaner carbon, don't worry about it. And then when Obama took office, a bunch of us, liberal conservative types, we got super excited and we're like, hooray, hooray, we've got hope and change. And instead, really, Obama was almost as much pro-coal as George Bush. This was like a big disappointment for the environmental movement, and both times over, we've had this more and more coal production. There's a lot of votes on top of that coal. So there's a lot of voters that you can sway by promoting this resource, and so everybody keeps talking. We've got all this stuff, and all the environmentalists go, well, but wait a minute, it's the really dirty kind. And so everybody keeps talking about trapping CO2, the cleaner technology of not causing global warming. Just so you know, this is not a commercial option yet. And so instead, everybody, you can ignore this slide, sorry, it's not part of our conversation now. Instead, everybody's talking about number 26 study goal, which is clean coal technology. I gotta say, I get really grumpy about that term. In number 26, I'm assuming everybody did their homework. There's low sulfur coal, new boilers, scrubbing, gasification, and liquefaction. We should be really clear about something. Coal has a lot of different impurities. The main one is sulfur oxides. Well, we talked about SOx. Yes, we do that, SOx? Talk about that? For the active integer from 1, 2, 3, 4, SOx? Okay. The best we can do, when people say clean coal, let's be very, very, very clear what that means. Clean coal means a little less SOx. It's like a gentle beating. Yeah, you can tune it down a little bit, but it's still a beating. There's no way that you can take the fundamental pollution out of coal. It makes a lot of CO2 and a lot of impurities that go into the air. And yes, we can lower the amount of SOx. But remember that when people talk about clean coal, they're just taking a percentage off. The cleanest option today is maybe 30-40% less SOx. And most of the coal is basically the same crap we were burning in 1882 when Thomas Edison started. If you scrub it, which some places do, scrubbing is removing it from the smoke as it leaves the pipes. Maybe you can get about 60% out, but very few people run a scrubber the whole time it's producing gas. It's producing smoke. So yes, it's possible to lower some of the harms of coal electricity, but no, it doesn't get clean. Clean should be cleaner. You can get a friendlier beating, but it's still a beating. Anybody want to talk more about number 26? Because I need to move on. Yeah?
Is it possible to convert, say, like lignite into anthracite?
Yes. Yeah.
Would that make it cleaner, or would it still be the same?
I think that misses the point. You'd probably make more pollution in the energy input than you would what you get out at the end. But yeah, that should theoretically make it cleaner, yeah. Yes?
In the last slide, there was the word like sequestration. What is that?
To sequester is to trap the CO2. And again, this is a concept that people really love, but there's nobody that's been able to do it commercially yet. The idea is when the CO2 comes out of the pipe, we want to bury it underground, put it back into, geologic storage. And if we could do that, that'd be pretty sweet, but we just haven't found a way to reservoir that volume of CO2. It's a big amount of our atmosphere. Would anybody like to talk more about coal? Because I've got 2 study goals left in this assignment. Okay. When we talked about petroleum extraction, you remember I said primary, secondary, tertiary. Like that? Does everybody remember why it costs so much? Harder to get, takes a lot of energy. Remember that? Okay. Nowadays, we've gotten a new petroleum source that is, please look up, the next level of cost and effort. It's a totally separate type of extraction, number 27. It's called oil shale or tar sand or oil sand or coal shale. In Venezuela, they call it extra heavy crude. I'm sorry to tell you that there isn't a single term for this. It's a category where you have some petroleum word plus some geology word. Oil, tar, coal, sand, shale, deposits, whatever. And the problem is it takes a ton of energy to mine this. If you want to have a visual of what we're talking about, imagine I'm going to walk outside the door. Fell with the phone. Imagine I'm going to walk outside the door. I'm going to mine that asphalt out of the ground. I'm going to heat it up, use crazy chemicals to dissolve out the little bits of tar, and then I'm going to try to get petroleum out of that asphalt. It's not a bad visual. Yeah?
Do you think that if we ever run out of petroleum, that would be like a way we get petroleum, rip up all the roads and like get petroleum out of it?
I guess, yeah. The bottom line you have to know, this is a lot of writing. I'm sorry I didn't make this slide. I certainly wouldn't copy it. I certainly would not copy this. You don't have time. Is that it takes a lot to do this type. Look, regular petroleum comes out on its own because it's a liquid. But tar sand must be strip mined or made to flow in sight by making the oil runnier. This uses a great deal of water and a large amount of energy. Here's what it looks like. This is as good as it gets. Like oily sand. And the majority of these deposits are actually this grade. Rocks with like a slime layer of dried petroleum, literally like that asphalt right there. I've got numbers that might blow your mind. From 1 ton of rock, that's 2,000 pounds, you can extract roughly 85 pounds of petroleum. It's 12 gallons. And in order to do that, you have to heat it to 500 degrees Celsius. And use a variety of solvents and water. Yeah.
Aren't they using more energy to make it? Like trying to make it?
So basically, you remember how this was? Of 5 barrels, you have to use 4, so you can only sell 1. This is the next step. So essentially, of 7 barrels, you can sell 1. And the other 6 go into getting it out of the ground. That's the cost. And that's the CO2 impact. Once you have the petroleum, it's the same CO2, but how much CO2 did it cost to get it out of the ground? This type of petroleum causes the most global warming. Not because the petroleum is any different, but the extraction energy cost causes so much global warming. You know what I mean by that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do they burn the tar sands after like extracting the sand, or do they leave the sand in there?
They probably have burners that let you use low-grade petroleum, but I can't imagine that having sand in it would be helpul. So I'm sure that they use some like low-grade but partially refined petroleum.
Because wouldn't glass be a byproduct if you burn?
Depending on temperature. Depends on temperature. Yeah.
Can I put the other, like, the non-85 pounds of petroleum like everyone has like my mother what do they do with that the rest of the
So now you've got all this ground up. Basically, imagine that asphalt, right? Here's, by the way, look at this. It's like a massive mining project. You like hard rock mining. So this isn't pumps. This isn't pumps. This is like, excavators and scoops and trucks. And you drive this asphalt and you grind it all up, and then you cook it really, really hot and use soaps that stick to the oil to get it out of the sand. And then you have to use other chemicals, usually I think acids and salts, that will break the soap bubbles and let the petroleum flow. So you have basically a ton of waste. Number 1, all the rock and sand you got to put back in the hole. Number 2, all the solvent-rich water that you've used to extract the petroleum, so you've got all this liquid waste. And so these mines have a huge habitat footprint, a huge water consumption and water pollution footprint, and then a huge CO2 footprint from burning all that energy. I only have 1 minute. This takes 3 minutes. I'm sorry, but we should try to catch up with the other periods. This is the main source, Canada. And you've probably heard about the Keystone XL fight going on in Congress, like right now. It's been going on for a couple of years, but it's really reaching ahead. Do you all know that the Democrats blocked the final vote in the Senate yesterday on the Keystone XL pipeline? The House has already approved it. The Republican Senate majority wants to approve it too. The president has threatened to veto it. Right now, this whole fight is about whether we're going to make a pipe to bring this type of petroleum down to be refined in Texas. And there's like an unfortunate struggle going on. For one thing, it is going to be mined. As petroleum gets expensive, this becomes worth it. when petroleum prices go back up to about $100 a barrel, this is cost effective. Right now, nobody wants to, but in a couple of months, it'll be a good idea again. Second of all, if they're going to do it, it's going to come to Texas one way or another, on trains, on trucks, or train, truck, and barge. And unfortunately, if they're going to do it, probably the safest way is the freaking pipeline. But all the hippies like me, you got to wait. You're not going to. All the hippies like me, we get really, really pissed about this idea because this is the petroleum extraction that causes the most global warming, the most habitat impact. And so this is the conservation struggle, to not enable a bad habit, like when mommy and daddy give you an allowance and you use it to buy crack. All of the conservation people in the U.S. were saying no Keystone Pipeline. It will encourage this extraction, which is so dirty. And I got to say, my hunch is sooner or later that pipeline's going to get built, and sooner or later Canada's going to use this resource no matter what we do. Anyway, goodbye, children.